massive new problems have been revealed for the 2026 Formula One cars. At the Barcelona test starting next week, difficulties are already emerging that nobody expected. We're just 1 week away from the completely new era hitting the track for the first time, and the warning lights are flashing. The Barcelona preseason test should showcase the future: lighter cars, smarter power units, biofuels. But behind the scenes, a very different picture is forming, filled with skyrocketing costs, technical doubts, and growing frustration throughout the paddock. Before a single lap has even been turned, some teams are already at a disadvantage. Let's start with the most explosive topic: fuel. Formula One's push to become carbon neutral by 2030 has kicked off with a radically new fuel formula. In 2026, every car must run on 100% sustainable biofuel. On paper, this sounds fantastic, but in reality, it's becoming an absolute nightmare for teams and suppliers. Stay with me because what I'm about to tell you changes everything. Let's dive into the fuel situation first. Formula One's push to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030 has begun with a radically transformed fuel formula. Starting in 2026, every single car must use 100% sustainable biofuel. Sounds brilliant on paper, but in reality, it's turning into a genuine nightmare. First off, there's the price tag. Reports confirm that a single tank of this biofuel could cost teams up to 13,000 euros per tank. Multiply that by hundreds of laps during testing, simulations, and race weekends, and you're looking at a financial time bomb, especially under strict cost cap regulations. But it's not just about the money. This fuel is incredibly sensitive. Even minor contamination, a bit of residue from old fuel lines, or poor handling during transfer can completely ruin an entire batch. It's fragile, volatile, and absolutely unforgiving. Teams are already treating it like liquid gold, and now things get even more complicated. The FIA has quietly relaxed the rules for next week's test, allowing teams to use fuel that isn't completely carbon neutral. Why? Because several suppliers simply aren't ready. They're struggling to meet the FIA's strict CO2 neutral requirements. What this means is that next week some teams might be running one type of fuel while others use something different, throwing data comparisons straight out the window. This isn't just a delay, it's a signal. Formula One's leap toward green energy is already hitting real-world limitations before the lights even go out. Another enormous headache teams are wrestling with heading into Barcelona is weight. The 2026 regulations were supposed to deliver lighter, more agile cars, but in classic Formula One fashion, promises and reality don't always align. According to sources close to the matter, Aston Martin is heading into testing 10 to 15 kilograms over minimum weight. This might not sound like much until you realize what it costs. On a circuit like Barcelona, that extra mass is worth approximately half a second per lap. In Formula One terms, that's an absolute chasm. Aston isn't panicking just yet. They're expecting to claw back some of that weight once their first upgrade package arrives, but until then, they'll be playing catch-up from lap 1. And while Aston sweats over the kilos, another name is quietly starting to flex its muscles. Sources close to Audi's 2026 project are revealing something significant. Audi has already hit the minimum weight target. They would be the only team to achieve this going into preseason testing. This gives them a clean slate and potentially a major advantage in both performance and development flexibility. It's still early days, but in a sport where every single gram counts, Audi might have just fired the first warning shot in what could become a fierce midfield battle. But weight and fuel are only the beginning. The real drama could explode around the engines themselves. More specifically, there's a growing controversy surrounding the compression ratio of these new power units. This year, the FIA slashed the legal compression ratio from 18:1 down to 16:1. It's a move designed to level the playing field and make engine design more accessible for newcomers, like Red Bull powertrains and Ford. But here's the twist. Some teams now suspect Red Bull and Mercedes discovered a loophole. According to rival manufacturers, Red Bull's engine complies with the 16:1 rule when tested at ambient temperature, exactly as the FIA currently checks it. But when the engine runs on track at higher temperatures, that ratio could exceed the legal limit. This is where the firestorm begins. Audi, Ferrari, and Honda have raised the alarm with the FIA. This issue is now on the table for a crucial meeting with technical experts scheduled for January 22nd, just days before testing begins. Red Bull, for their part, is playing it cool. Very cool. Powertrains director Ben Hodgkinson isn't backing away from the heat. In fact, he's brushing it off completely. I think there's nervousness from various power unit manufacturers that there might be some clever engineering going on at some teams. I've been doing this a long time, and it's pretty much just noise. You've just got to run your own race, really. He's confident, perhaps overly so. I know what we're doing, and I'm confident that what we're doing is legal. Obviously, we've pushed it right to the limit of what the regulations allow. My honest feeling is it's a lot of fuss about nothing. But the stakes here are absolutely enormous. This isn't just about engine legality, it's about who owns the early advantage in 2026. And Hodgkinson knows that every fraction of compression ratio can translate into performance. From a purely technical standpoint, the compression ratio limit is too low. We have the technology to make combustion happen fast enough. So, with fuel costs skyrocketing, weight targets dividing the grid, and engine tricks igniting fires throughout the paddock, how does Formula One stabilize itself heading into the 2026 season? The truth is, it might not. The FIA's technical meeting on January 22nd is shaping up to be more than just a rules clarification session. It could become a full-blown showdown. Teams like Audi, Ferrari, and Honda are coming armed with spreadsheets, sensor data, and regulation printouts, demanding absolute clarity. Red Bull will arrive with their telemetry insisting everything is above board. Mercedes will likely stay quiet, confident in their engineering. And the FIA must decide whether to enforce the letter of the law or the spirit of it. What makes this particularly interesting is the timing. Next week's Barcelona test represents the first real look at these machines in action. If Red Bull has a performance advantage tied to this compression ratio controversy, it'll show immediately. And if other teams see it in the data, expect political pressure to intensify dramatically. Here's the situation summary. Massive new problems revealed for 2026 Formula One cars at Barcelona test. Biofuel costs €13,000 per tank. A financial bomb, incredibly sensitive where contamination ruins entire batches. FIA relaxed test rules allowing non-completely neutral fuel because suppliers aren't ready. Weight is a problem. Aston Martin 10 to 15 kilos over minimum costs half a second per lap. Audi, only team reaching minimum weight, gives enormous advantage. Compression ratio controversy. Red Bull Mercedes, 16-1 when cold, but exceeds when hot on track. Audi, Ferrari, Honda sounding alarm FIA meeting January 22nd. Ben Hodgkinson from Red Bull. Confident, just noise, engine is legal. Push to regulation limits. Limit too low for modern technology. Stakes are enormous for early 2026 advantage. Every fraction of ratio means performance. Barcelona testing next week. Who's hiding the biggest secrets? The stopwatch never lies.